Hi. Oh, there we go. There we go. Just a couple minutes late. You're welcome. Welcome to my brain. We were just a few minutes late. Wow, I was running just a little bit behind. Amazing. Amazing. Good morning. Oh, sorry, Facebook, I'm a little close. You're welcome. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It is Friday. It is Friday, June the 7th, 2024 for those of you watching in the future. Or watching the replay at some point in the future. Hey, welcome. Welcome. My name is Dr. Shannon Coates, and I am a singer and educator and a pedagogy maximizer coming to you live from north of Toronto in Canada. That's right, up here in Canada. Yep, just north of Toronto. A little northeast, if I'm being perfectly accurate. A little bit northeast, but you know. Hey, so yeah, today, let me say a couple of things. First of all, oh, hey, Melody Thomas Music Studio. Couple things. I happen to be doing, I do have a couple, well, really only one, maybe two spaces left for some voice lessons this summer. They're sort of like pedagogically informed, if you will. So if you're not a voice teacher, whatever, that's all great. We can just do like sort of straight ahead voice lessons. But if you're a voice teacher and you want to do some voice lessons that for yourself, that are also sort of like, and now I'm working in this way because blah, blah, blah. Oh, hi, because blah, blah, blah. You're welcome to do that. And I do have a couple of spaces left. So if that's something you're interested in, send me a message, send me a note. And if you are interested in doing some voice ped consults, I do have space for that. That's just like when we talk, or you bring videos of the folks you're working with, or all of the things. We go through however you would like to work. That's how we work. And the VoicePed 101 library is opening next week. So this is kind of fun. It's been in the making for a little while, and this is where all of the live lectures that I have done over the years, not all of them yet, but many of them, are going to be in the library. So if you're the kind of person who loves to get their pedagogy, I just got a notification on my phone that I'm going live. So thank you. Thanks, Instagram, for letting me know that I'm live. It's great. It's great. What was I saying? Oh yeah, if you're someone who enjoys getting their pedagogy in a self-directed kind of like watch the video, go back, watch the video, maybe watch the video one more time, maybe blah, blah, blah kind of way, that might be the thing for you. I'm also doing a like until September 1st. So it's like June right now. Yeah. So until September 1st, you can actually buy a lifetime membership. Asterisk lifetime of the library. My lawyer doesn't want me to say it's your lifetime because what if the library goes away before you do? Huh? Whoops! Then I'm out of my contract. Anyway, you get what I mean. It's going to be around for a long time. And basically, if you'll get a lifetime membership now until September 1st, then you never have to worry. You can always just, okay. Whew! Yeah. Here we go. So we're talking today. These are some live office hours, or a live office hour-ish. What are we talking about today? We're talking about, I don't know if any of you have heard that saying before, the saying of like, when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Seen that saying before? Where you're like, and yeah. So that's what we're talking about today. In terms of voice pedagogy, so in terms of teaching and in terms of specifically working with the voice, in sort of typical independent voice studio. And some of the examples that I used, let me say why I wanted to talk about this today, or why this came up as a subject that I might want to include in my live office hours. The more I work with voice teachers, the more Oh, that's the other thing that's coming up. Registration for the voice ped underdegree, class of 25. Oh boy, yeah, that's coming. Anyway, the more I work with voice teachers, in all of the time that I've been working with voice teachers, consistent themes, something that comes up consistently is, well, this person's problem is, or this singer really has to work on, or this singer's issue, the thing we're working on, what's an exercise for, how do I fix X, Y, Z, right? So teachers are looking for tools because the sort of underlying philosophy around what our job is or what it looks like to be an expert in the voice studio as an educator, the underlying philosophy is that I diagnose what's happening in the singer, and I figure out what's wrong and what needs to be fixed, and so then I go in with the right tool to fix the thing. So that's the sort of like philosophical underpinning of our pedagogy. And that means then that we go in and we're like, we take charge and we say, okay, you've got this thing, you've got this thing, you've got this thing, and here's what we have to do in order to fix it. Here's what we have to work on, right? So we go in that way. And that is, oh, hey, Liz Jackson Hearns, I see you. And so that's a thing that comes up in that underlying philosophy or that underlying understanding about what our role as an expert is, in the voice studio, that comes up quite a lot. This underlying idea that my job is to diagnose and then to fix. So that's the underlying idea, right? I've got to tell them what's wrong. I've got to figure out what the thing is. And so what that leads to is, or what that often leads to then as voice teachers, is it leads to us constantly searching for tools, constantly searching for prescriptions, if you will, constantly searching for exercises, constantly searching for more information that is going to allow us to be able to tell what is wrong with the singer we're working with in order to be able to fix it, right? So we're on this constant search, and that's a constant pain point as well as an insecurity. Maybe those are the same things. It's a constant insecurity with the voice teachers I work with, or that the voice teachers I work with have, which is this insecurity about I can't always tell what is happening in the voice. And that it works both ways. So it works in the like, I don't know what's happening in this voice. There's something off. I can't describe it. I don't know physiologically what's wrong. Therefore, I can't fix it. So I'm not doing my job. And it also works the other way too. I very much remember working with singers when I was first starting out, who were really good, who were already really well coordinated. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do? There's nothing to fix here. I can't hear anything wrong with this singer. They're already using their voice really well. And so it works both ways, right? Like, what if there's something to fix here, but I don't know what it is? Yes. Or what if there's nothing? What if I can't figure out what's wrong? What if there's nothing? What if I can't hear anything wrong? So there's nothing to fix. On both sides of that equation, we get this like underlying, like, I don't have the right tools. I don't know enough about the voice. I can't, I can't fix this singer. I can't do right. I can't do my job. I can't do right by them. I can't do my job, right? So again, what that leads us to is this sort of constant quest for more tools, more information, more tools, more information. And to be clear, more information and more tools is not a bad thing. This isn't a thing that is like, ooh, we should not be taking classes. We should not be, like, that's not a bad thing. However, the reason we're doing it and the expectation around what that acquiring that new tool or that new methodology or that new understanding, thanks Liz, what that reasoning is, what we think it's going to change in our teaching, that's the underlying issue, right? So when we are thinking that if only I had another tool, If only I did another summer institute. If only I did another, if only I learned what belting is. If only I learned the language of pressurization and flow. If only I learned all good things. Do not get me wrong. But what we often are saying to ourselves as we're doing this, as we're if-onlying ourselves, is then I will be able to fix all of the singers I work with. Then I will have the information I need, the tools I need, the exercises I need, the ears I need to be able to know what's wrong and be able to fix all of the singers I'm working with, right? Then I'll be able to do my job. Then I will do the thing that they are hiring me for. So you see that is a very good intention, but it is misplaced. That is a misunderstanding of what it means to be an expert in the voice studio, what it means to be an educator. It's a misunderstanding of what it means to be an educator. This is not what being an educator means. It is not. It is a misunderstanding of what it means to be a voice teacher or coach. This is a misunderstanding. A very understandable misunderstanding, a very valid misunderstanding, because that's the only thing that's the main thing that we have heard. That's the way we were taught. That's what's in all of our voice pedagogy texts. That's how academia works. That's how Western classical singing in particular works. I am the expert, I know what's wrong with you, and so I will fix you, and or I will give you the right exercises so that you will sing in the right way, right? So these are all of this is the underlying philosophy that leads us to search for new tools. And so then what happens? Now I get a new tool. And what happens? I got a new tool, and my tool is a hammer, and now every single one of my students looks like a nail. Right. So I got a new tool. Maybe I did some work with someone talking about understanding belt. Great. Now I understand belting so much better, and I understand what I'm supposed to be doing, and I understand what I'm supposed to be listening for, and I understand, what's happening physiologically, and I understand, shaping, and I understand pressurization, and I understand blah, blah, blah. I understand all of these things. Awesome. So now every singer who I work with now suddenly has an issue with their belting. Every singer that I work with. Why? Because I got this new tool. And my understanding of the new tool is that it is going to give me everything I need to be able to fix all of the singers I'm working with. So now, because I have this new tool, all of the singers I'm working with look like, sound like, I perceive them to have the nail that this hammer will fix. That's a weird analogy. You're welcome. But every singer I'm working with now needs to work on their shaping, vocal tract shaping, and needs to work on their pressurization levels in order to fix their belt, or in order to be able to access their belt sound. I do an Alexander Technique class or course or whatever. I do an Alexander Technique course. Amazing. I love Alexander Technique. It's fantastic. I do an Alexander Technique course. What happens? Every single singer I work with from now on all have to do body movement. There's something that they need to change in their bodies in order to be able to sing well, in order for them to be able to make the sounds that I think they should be making, right? And what do? I'm like, okay, now we're all going to work together to release this and to release that, and everybody has to do these things that will allow their bodies to align in a better way, in a more efficient way, so that everybody could. So now my tool is body work, Alexander Technique, if you will, which I love. Do not get me wrong, I love it. And what happens? Now I forget about shape. Now I forget about pressurization. Now I forget about all of the things that I just thought about belting. And now everything is about what's the body doing. I take a breathing course. I work with someone who is maybe a respiratory therapist or something along those lines. I figure out breathing. Okay, now everybody I work with, everybody is not breathing well. They're not breathing well. So we've got to work on breathing. Everybody has to work on breathing. I figured out for myself something that happened in my tongue. My tongue was locked in the back, whatever. My tongue was really tight. Okay, that's great. So I figured that out for myself. And now my tongue, and my teacher's telling me that my tongue is released. So I know it's released because my teacher told me. Now my tongue is released. And so now every singer who comes into my studio has tongue tension. Every singer has tongue tension because, oh, what good is the tool if there isn't an instruction manual for the tool? Yes, if we don't know how to use the tool, and if we're only, exactly. So like, the tool becomes the means to the end, almost becomes the end. The tool almost becomes the end, right? It becomes the one-stop solution. The tool becomes the thing, and because I have this tool, it's the only thing that I see in front of me with the singers I'm working with is the thing that this tool will fix. Every singer I'm working with. Again, this isn't there's nothing wrong with having tools. There's nothing wrong with understanding how the voice works, with having, with understanding body alignment, with understanding Alexander technique, there is nothing wrong with any of those things. The issue is that we think that the tool is more important than the teaching. And we think that the tool, and when the tool doesn't work, self-esteem about ability to teach plummets 100%. So when the tool doesn't work, right, we either think that we're not using the tool right, we didn't do right by the person who told us how to use this tool, we obviously misunderstood something somewhere, maybe we aren't hearing it correctly, so maybe we got something, maybe there's something else we should know about this tool, right? We either think that, or we blame the singer. That happens too. We blame the singer because they're not working hard enough, or they're not applying the tool in the way that we told them to apply it, or they're just not teachable, or they want they're not compliant. They're not doing what I told them to do, or they don't practice enough, or they are blah, 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 right? So either way, we either go outward and blame the singer we're working with because they're not doing what I told them to do. And this tool works. I know this tool works because I did a workshop on it. I spent $5,000 and went and did a whole summer institute on it. I know this tool works. So it must be the student's problem. Or, yes, we say to the singer, just practice it. You'll get it. Yep. The opposite of self-esteem. Yep, the opposite. Self-esteem are overinflated. 100%, right? So when the tool works, when it does what we think it's supposed to do, what happens? I'm amazing. I'm such a good teacher. We conflate the results of using the tool with our teaching ability. We join those two things together, right? And we think that we are good teachers because we have used the tool in the right way. We're good teachers. How do we get around this? How do we start to understand that the tool is just a tool? It's not teaching. It is not pedagogy. It is not understanding. It is a way to inform our teaching, but it is not teaching. It's not the end. It's not the thing. It is just a tool. How do we start to understand? First of all, a way that we can recognize when we are falling into this trap is exactly what I said. Okay, I do a thing, and now I just realized that every singer in my studio who I've worked with has tongue tension. Oops. Every singer in my studio has to work on their XYZ. Every singer in my studio can't breathe. Don't get me wrong. I have some exercises that I use like 25,000 times every single day with almost every singer I work with because I love them so much. That is a different thing. I am not applying that exercise in order to get a result or change singing. I'm using the exercise to start to get some feedback about what is happening in that singer's body and what they want to change. I'm not using the tool to change a thing. I'm using the tool to observe some things. I'm using the tool to allow for the singer and myself to have some space to observe, to have some space to gather data. I'm not expecting the tool to change a thing. Yeah, I'm not using it with the express purpose of changing the thing. Right, so one way to recognize that you're falling into this trap, or when we're falling into this trap of the tool is the be-all and the end-all, the tool is the thing, is when we are using a tool because we're seeing something that needs the same thing that needs, the same tool, because we're seeing the same thing that needs to be changed in every singer we work with, right? Another example of this is, okay, I took a whole course or I did a whole thing on like warm-ups. Maybe I read a chapter in a book on, technical warm-ups, or how to do warm-ups for, technique or blah, 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 to save your voice or be healthy or whatever. So I know all of these things. Okay, so now every single singer I work with has to have a warm-up. And I never stop to ask, hey, how do you know when you're warmed up? What does it feel like when you're warmed up? How do you know? How do you know you're ready to sing? How do you know that your voice is in the place you want it to be in order to do the singing that you want to do with the most efficiency and ease? How do you know? Awesome. How can you get to that point? What are the things you can do to get to that point? That is a very different thing. So see how in my brain, I'm like, yes, we want folks to be warmed up, to warm up. We want folks to warm up. But that's a very different process from you must warm up because I just read a chapter in a book and or saw a study and or, whatever, did a lesson myself where my teacher walked me through the best warm up ever. That's a very different thing from those two ways of approaching a warm up are completely different from a philosophical background, right? From a values background, from a pedagogical background. One is, how do you know when you're singing when your voice is ready to sing with ease and efficiency? What are the things you need to do to get to that, to get your voice to that? Let's incorporate those now. You tell me when your voice feels like it's at the point of ease and efficiency that you want it to be at in order to sing the way you want to sing. That's different. That is a very different pedagogical lens, if you will, or philosophical lens to you must warm up or else you will hurt yourself. You won't be able to sing the way you want to. And here are the exercises you need to do in order to warm up. And I will tell you when you're ready to sing. Because I read an article, I saw some research that showed that everybody needed to warm up or else they're going to hurt their voices. Those are two different conclusions from the same data, as I talked about in live office hours a couple weeks ago. Two different ways of applying the same data. We know that the voice wants to do some singing or some stretching or whatever. We want to do some movement in the voice before we're using the voice in a particular way. We know this. We understand this. There's going to be more ease if we're, being intentional about the way we use our voice before we actually, start singing or whatever. That's great. That's the data. The conclusion between those two is how do I use the tool? What's the tool? Is the tool that I now must make sure that every singer I work with warms up because they're not warming up or else they're going to hurt their voice? Or is the conclusion that every singer gets to understand that this is good information for them to have so that they have options to be able to warm up in the ways that feel great for them to the point that where they know that they are able to sing in the way they want to sing with efficiency and ease. Two different ways, right? So, sorry, I scrolled a little there. If you are asking for the same thing, if you are using a tool in the same way with every singer you work with, or with the majority of the singers you work with, and or you are seeing the same thing that needs to be fixed or changed with every singer you're working with, that is a clue that you are falling into this trap of the tool being, oh, thumbs up, yay, Instagram, of the tool being more important than it is. You are elevating the tool. The tool has become the grand thing. Another way that you can understand that you are falling into this trap is when you have those feelings of either, I don't know how to help this singer because they're already so good and they're already doing everything that I think they should be doing, or I know there's something wrong with this singer, I know there's something that they're not doing, but I don't know how, I can't tell what it is, and so I don't have the right exercise I don't have the right tool, I don't know which tool to use. When you're either, I don't know which tool to use, or this singer doesn't need any tools. Those two things, if those things are coming through your head with one or more of the singers you're working with, and if you're listening right now and you can think of some singers that you're working with where you're like, oh, right, yeah, I think that about that singer, about working with that singer, that is a sign that you are preferencing, you are assigning so much value to the tool at the expense of the whole person in front of you and your own teaching. The whole person in front of you does not need to be fixed, and the whole person in front of you, the whole singer in front of you, on the one hand does not need to be fixed. If that's the thing that you're thinking, I can't do my job because I don't know how to fix this person, I don't know what to assign, I don't know what tool to use, or I can't do my job because this person is already so good that they don't need me, they don't need to be fixed. You are, thank you, preaching, you are falling into the trap of preferencing the value. You're assigning so much value to the tool at the cost of your teaching and at the cost of seeing the person in front of you as a whole person. Someone who you think, I work with singers all the time, like, well, I do again, but when I was teaching regularly in a more typical studio, I worked with lots of singers who had things that clearly they wanted to change, and that, you know, anybody else listening to them might have wanted to, you know, change as well. And I also worked with lots and lots of pro and pro-track singers, and lots of well-trained singers who were teaching and also singing. And many of them could sing just as well as I can or better. Many of them. So why are they coming to me? Because I've worked with tons of folks I've worked with many professional jazz singers. I can't sing jazz to save my life. I cannot. I don't know the style. I don't understand. Blah, blah, blah. Work with lots of jazz singers. And the jazz singers are coming to me and I'm like, you sound amazing. I'm not really sure what we're doing here. I don't have a tool for this because I don't know. So what happens in that case, I get to treat them as a whole person, as the singer with agency that they are, and say, what do you want to change? What do you want to hear more of in your own voice? Where do you want to hear more of that? Where do you want to feel more of that in your own voice? Amazing. I don't have a tool for that. Let's figure out where, now then I use the find over fix principle. Let's figure out where in your voice you're already doing what you want to do in this part of the voice, or in this part of the song, or blah, blah. Let's figure out where you're already doing that. Let's build on that. Building, then we scaffold, then we do mindful repetitions, we do all of these pedagogy principles, you're welcome. We do all of these things. And then with the singers who I my first instinct is to fix, to find the right tool, or my first instinct is like, oh yeah, I know what's going to fix this. I don't. What do I say? What do you want to change? Okay. You want to change that thing? That's interesting. Not the thing I thought they might want to change. That's fine. That's what you want to change? Okay. Where do you feel like you might be already doing it? What does your body want to do to create that sound? How do you want to figure out that difference in the sound? Often we land on tools that I might have suggested anyway. Often we land on exercises I might have suggested anyway. Often they'll say something to me. So say, for example, we're working on belt, and then we find a less pressurized belt, for example, and we find a different shaping for the mouth in that belt. What happens? Often they'll say to me, oh, I see I'm like really changed. I've really changed where my jaw is. That's interesting. And also it feels like I'm kind of doing head voice. Great. Could we have got there if I had thought to myself, okay, let's make sure that we change that mouth position. Let's make sure that let's ask for more flow, less pressure, blah, blah, blah. Do I know enough about the voice to be able to ask for things in those terms? 100% I do. Is it going to be deeper learning and also easier on me as a teacher? Less responsibility for their learning if I'm working from what they already know? Yes, it is. I'm going to build on what they already know. I'm going to do observation rather than diagnostics. I'm going to listen, because as soon as that's the other thing. If when you're listening to singers or you're working with singers, your first instinct after they've sung is to give them a tool, even if it's a different tool than the hammer, even if you know you've just done a whole thing on like whatever. Oh yeah. How do you go about this with children who might not have the tools to talk about their voices? Yeah, such a good question. So children and folks who don't have say like beginner singers, right? Like folks who've never taken voice lessons before and who don't necessarily have like either the words to explain what they want, or maybe, and children especially, often children are taking voice lessons because their mom told them to take voice lessons, or their parent, or like maybe their grandmother was like, I would love to pay for music lessons, and they're like, okay, I guess I'll take voice lessons. So they don't actually have a goal, or they don't have something they want to change about their voice, right? They don't have something they want to do differently with their voice. That's all about the exploration then, right? So even in that case, where I might still be hearing, okay, we want to get a lot more clarity here. I want to make sure that we're releasing, blah, blah, blah. What am I asking for? I'm still describing the voice in terms of what I'm hearing, not in terms of what the process is, if that makes sense. So I'm going to describe the voice in terms of, I'm hearing some breathiness. I would love to have more clarity. I'm not going to describe the voice in terms of, okay, so that means then that I have to use these tools. I have to use this tool. I mean, you can, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that way, right? You can have the what does my voice want to do in terms of clarity? How do I want to make more clarity? I feel like when I'm going for more clarity, oh gosh, this is so wonderful. Thank you. Oh. Someone just wrote that I'm the best, and that was very kind. It just threw me off. What do I want to do in my own voice when I'm asking for more clarity? So like, Melody, I'm talking to you. I know you're a very seasoned teacher. You know what you're talking about. You have these tools, so you would be able to go to that tool and be like, yeah, I know. We can try this. We can try this. We can try this. Right? Like you've got all the tools. That's all good. And I know that you are working with singers to like have to work with the tool that is going to be great for them, and to support the singers to start to have their own agency. I totally know that, right? So that's all good. I'm thinking more about like in the case of like I want to hear more clarity in the voice, for example, with a young child, for example, or say I would love for that child to have a better pitch acuity, middle voice. I would love for the child to be able to find a little bit more intensity. I would love for that sound to be a little louder, maybe. I would love for, so I'm describing all of the sounds just in terms of what I'm hearing, not in terms of, okay, I need them to pressurize more, I need them to do this more, I need them to do that more. So I'm not using the like, what has to happen, and therefore what tool do I need to use in order to change it? I'm going to go into the like, and especially teachers. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. So especially, let me talk about that, yeah. Because yeah, you already know. But anyway, like, so especially for teachers who think that they don't have the tools because they don't understand the process, if that makes sense. So I don't understand why that voice is breathy. I just know I need it to be clear. So the tool that you might use then is, what do I do in my own voice to get clear sound? Ooh, I kind of want to make owl sounds. Ooh, ooh. I want to make, oh yeah, that's nice and clear and hooty. I would love for you to also do some owl sounds, and let's discover a clear voice. Do I then, and then I build from that clarity, right? So I don't have to know then, in this case of clarity, for example, I don't have to know that what I want is I actually want a change in that vocal tract shaping, likely a little bit more narrow. I also wanted maybe a little bit of a different pressurization level. I wanted maybe a little bit more closure. I wanted a longer closed quotient during the phonation, blah, blah, blah. I don't need to know any of those things. I don't need to know. I don't have to have that tool. I can trust me. That's the other thing that happens when we are in the throes of the I must have a tool to fix this singer because otherwise I'm not doing my job, is we stop trusting our own bodies and we stop trusting the bodies of the person in front of us. We stop trusting them as a whole person to be able to find the sounds they want to make, and we stop trusting ourselves because we think, well, I need a tool. Yes, Melody, yes. Boom. When I first started teaching, so much of my pedagogical discoveries came from mimicking my students' voices in the shower. Yes. What do I want to hear more of? What am I hearing? What do I want to hear more of? And how do I make that sound? Okay. How would I change that sound? I can trust my body. I can trust me to be able to change, to make that sound. Yes, I can. Woo. So yes, 100%. And what happens when we think that we must have a tool, if only I had this tool so that I could work with the singers, is I stop trusting myself, right? I stop trusting, or I never trusted myself in the first place. This is a big thing that I work with voice teachers on all the time, is I never trusted myself in the first place. Or part of that is because, why? Well, I did Western classical singing, and it's very tricky to come across Western classical sounds in sort of everyday voice use. We don't really do West, unless you're truly a child, in which case you might do some of those sounds every day on your own. You might do those sounds. You might find them, right? But we don't tend to trip across those sounds in our everyday singing, in our everyday voice use. Whereas 90% of the other sounds we make in singing, we trip across them every day in our voice use, right? So we can trust ourselves to be able to make those sounds. But we can't always trust ourselves to be able to figure out how to do Western classical style sounds without someone external to us kind of supporting us to find those sounds, right? And so that seeps into our understanding of what the voice is. It really seeps into where I can't trust myself to figure out this sound because and added to that, if we've had that added thing of like, if we're voice teachers who went through Western classical training, and then we have the added thing that, belting is dangerous, or contemporary sounds will wreck your voice, or blah, blah. If we've got that added sort of little fear in there, we really don't trust ourselves. We really don't trust ourselves. So yeah, in terms of kid voices that make you think, I don't know how to help this person because there's nothing obviously to be fixed, but they don't have goals, then it's all just Explore Fest. It's an Explore Fest, right? That becomes the full-on Explore Fest. What do you love to sing? Who's your favorite? I mean, you know this already. I'm preaching to the choir here, but you know this already. But like, who do you love to sing? And if they don't love, let's do a listening party. You and we're gonna do a listening party. We're gonna pull up YouTube. We're gonna do some listening. If they only love one person, great. You know what's awesome is like YouTube suggested videos. So let's listen to that one person, and then let's figure out who YouTube thinks is kind of like that one person. Same with Spotify. Let's pull up that one person or iTunes or whatever, right? All of those suggested, like recommended for you because you like blah, blah, blah. All of these other people. So we start to find the things that you love to sing. What do you love to sing? What have you always wanted to sing? If you could sing anything in the world, what would you sing? If you could be any character in the world, what would you sing? That can be homework as well. Homework. Tell me let's figure out. Next week you come back and let's figure out and tell me what your favorite, maybe you could also come in through the like, who's your favorite, certainly who's your favorite pop star, of course, but also you can come in through who's your favorite book character, who's your favorite movie character, who's your favorite TV show character, who's your favorite YouTuber, who's your favorite TikToker, like, see how I got it in for the younger generation there? You're welcome. But you could get all of those, you know, like you can go in that way as well. Okay, so your favorite TikToker is blah, 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 amazing. What do you think that TikToker would sing if they could? Let's figure out some songs with lyrics that they might love, or that they might sing if they were, you know, if they were singing, or let's figure out a style that you think. Oh, chosic. Amazing melody. I have not heard of that before. Amazing. It's similar to like the Spotify recommend or whatever, eh? Where you put in something you like and then they're like, based on the fact that you like Taylor Swift, you might also like blah, blah, blah. I don't know what I did with my voice there. Yeah. Oh, cool. Chosic. CHOSIC. I will include that as a thing. I'll tag it in my, yes. Beautiful. It hasn't been an hour, but it really doesn't have to be an hour. These are just sort of like, the concept is live office hours. That's the concept. Yeah, that's good. That's a pro tip right there. Thank you. Thank you. So and when you find yourself, when you start to say to yourself, okay, wait, I am working with this singer. I think I'm falling into the sort of, the tool is everything trap. How do I get out of that trap? I start to ask questions. We start to explore with the singer. How do I get out of that trap of like, I must have the right tool in order to fix the singer, in order to solve their problems. I must have the right tool. How do I get out of that trap? I start to say things like, how do you know if you're warmed up? How does it feel when you're warmed up and ready to sing? Great. You're also totally allowed to be like, let's explore these 3 exercises and see which one feels like it works the best for you. There's a reason to have tools. I mean, it's great to have tools, right? Let's explore these 3 exercises and see which one you love. You can have those tools. I ask myself, what do I want to hear more of in the voice? I describe the voice in terms of, well, I figure out what their goals are, what they would like to change. Then I describe the voice in terms of describing the sound, not describing the process. I'm going to describe the voice as it's like forward and pointy. Amazing. That's the sound. Forward might not be as much of a description of the sound. Maybe I'm describing the voice in terms of colors. It's really rich. It's really like purpley in the middle range, and then in the top range it's quite yellow and bright. Like it's a bright yellow. It's intense. I'm going to describe the voice. So and then I'm going to ask myself, what do I want to hear more of in the voice? I think in that middle range, I would love to hear a little bit of yellow in that middle range. Or I would love to hear the ability to move between purple and yellow in that middle range. Oh, yeah. Yep. I give myself the freedom, the gift of freedom years ago when I allowed myself to say, I don't know, and I'll research that and get back to you. Yeah. Yeah, you don't have to know everything. But also, you may not even have to research as much as you think. I'm just putting it out there. May not have to. You may be able to rely on, yes, right? Don't have to know everything, but also you might not have to research as much as you think either. You may be able to rely on exploration. You may be able to rely on what do I want to hear more of, and how does my body intuitively create that sound or coordinate toward that sound? What am I doing in my own body in order to coordinate toward that sound? As Melody well knows, I do not have access to pretty much anything above a D6, above a high D, right? D, C, 4, 5, yeah, whatever that is. Is that a D6? Yeah, I think so, right? And yet, I work very, very successfully with folks who have, like Melody, who have like an octave above that. Very successfully with folks who sing high, lots of notes in the top. Obviously, I'm not doing it by demonstrating, because I literally cannot sing those notes. But I am doing it by demonstrating the coordination. I'm all in there going, what would my body do if I could sing those notes? Here's what my body would do if I could. I'm going to ask for more from you of that thing. I'm in there, my body is trying. This is what my body would look like if I did sing those notes. And sometimes we look up on, sometimes I look up, other folks on the internets, on the YouTubes, and be like, let's see what someone else's body does when they sing those notes, or when they're doing those notes. Let's figure that out. And that's all the research I actually need. Rather than, and again, don't get me wrong, I do understand the physiological process of singing those particular notes. I do understand that, and I do have that information myself. But I actually don't need that information. I like to have it, because that's the kind of person I am. But I actually don't need it, right? In order to teach effectively. The research is, how is my body going to make this that? How does my body want to coordinate toward that? Trust, trust, trust. We talk about trust a lot in the VFUD. Trust. Oh, what does trust look like? And giving up, right? Giving up freedom and having the freedom to be like, I don't know. What do you think? All right, friends. That's where I'm going to end today. It was almost an hour. That was good times. When I have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. When everything starts to look like a nail, ask yourself, maybe I am falling into the trap that says that I am only as good as my tool. That sounded, you do this? That sounded a little sexy. I'm only as good as my tool. No, you're not. Maybe that should be the title of my book. I'm only as good as my tool. Good times. All right, friends. Talk to you later. You're so welcome. Yeah, you're welcome. Take good care. Let